All right, so we had a semi, or at least presumed to be successful repair initially. So now we're going to go ahead and attempt fate. And it's my intent, as I said, to go ahead and remove this other one, and then I'm calling this an upgrade. Go ahead and upgrade the other one. Is it really an upgrade? I backed myself into a corner. So I'm going to move forward and hopefully be able to make good on this. So I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know if this is necessarily the best way to do it. I've had mixed luck with this wicking stuff, solder wick. I know you're supposed to be able to lay it across there, heat it up, and it's supposed to pull all the solder off from it. As I said, I've had mixed luck. And I'm sure there's somebody here on YouTube right now that's watching this saying, "Hey idiot, you're doing it wrong." I know. I am. I can live with that. So probably should be using a larger tip. That might help. So keep that off the beeper and see where this gets us. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that one on there. And as I had planned, I'm going to go ahead and just set these up. I wish I could get that one off though. Just for gee whizzles. Let's see what happens here. Okay, don't judge me on this. I'm just we're experimenting here. All right, it's probably more than what I need, and probably won't leave me enough. Yeah. Let's see what happens with just the one. You know, that's duplicatable. Here's what I've done. This one, these are designed a little bit differently. Excuse me while I grab one of these. It was off camera. It was the actual replacement component. I purchased these first, and you'll see when I dig this little guy out. This is the same ones, maybe not the exact same ones. It's the same size as what Immersion initially used for the antenna. You can see the sizes match. And when I went ahead and identified what I perceived to be the problem, I realized that I could go ahead and add a longer one, and I did buy extra of these nuts and washers with the intent of putting, it's going to be, and as you've seen what I've done, you've got the longer one, you put a nut on there, then it's going to have the plate with an additional nut on the front side, clamping it to this plate, which is then screwed to the case, thus eliminating, hopefully, at least my belief is it's going to eliminate all the issues with the possibility of breaking these off. Now, you can see how this is longer here than it is here, as far as I guess you could almost call it the shank of it. So I went ahead and put one of these nuts on here on the existing one, and I'm going to use this one because it was the existing one, and hopefully the video is able to portray this, how much play that there actually is on here. Well, what it's doing is simulating what I had already done before. It's basically taking up that space that is being created by this other side, and I'll go ahead and demonstrate that over here as well. I'm going to go ahead and secure this one just to give an example of what's ultimately going to happen here. Okay, so I'm back with one of IB Crazy's super cannons, the one I used for the test, and you may see that this one has a big black X on it, and there is a very good reason that this thing has an X on it. This, and I'm going to clarify this right now, this was not from IB Crazy. As a matter of fact, I purchased this one. It came with some equipment from, I want to say ImmersionRC. I started purchasing from Ready Made, and then I don't want to say I transitioned to, but I've started since buying a lot of things from Get FPV. I'm not necessarily plugging either one of them. They both seem to support the hobby. But here's what the issue was with this, and I'm only pointing this out because these are out here, and these are people are using them. I noticed that this was spinning around, and I couldn't figure out why. And this is the scary thing was, but I kept noticing that this thing was moving around, and this was on my Team Black Sheep Discovery. And one point in time, right before going flying, my antenna was in the bottom of my Pelican case. No idea why, and because I'm the only one that uses it. I'm the only one that has access to it. I don't have my kids here in Korea with me, so I know that this was it wasn't where I put it, and nobody else had access to it. Once again, big black X. Why? Because this was still screwed in, and this had fallen off. The entire antenna had fallen off. So, if you're using this stuff, especially on transmitters, take that into consideration. Had this fallen off in flight, I would have lost my telemetry, I would have lost my video, and I would have fried a transmitter. So maybe these, and they should be able to be soldered. If you're using these, I have not gone back through and double checked these, but I definitely wanted to take this as an opportunity to point that out. Check your stuff, guys and gals. Check your stuff. Some of this stuff is pretty stinking expensive, and there's no need for us to go and lose it because of some manufacturer or a retailer is using cheapest Chinese garbage they can find. So anyways, sorry, soapbox, just put it away. This is representing the repair that I've made. You can see the nut's already on there. The nut is already on here as well. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this nut on the front of this. Now this one obviously is going to be longer than the other one. You might be able to use that to your advantage. And I've got this nut on there just for to depict what it was going to look like, but that was actually wrong. The reason why I grabbed this was to demonstrate. You can imagine this is going to be the new antenna. And I know that this is wiggling around in here right now. It obviously won't be wiggling because it's going to be attached to the same board, and hopefully it won't be breaking anything. But you can now see that this antenna, although the SS is spinning, just because that's the way it's designed, this is fixed. That little rascal's not moving, and that's the same thing that I've done here. This antenna is going to be able to go on here, and anything short of this, the plate, which is going to be attached to the entire frame, bending, and this is not tight right now, so you have to bear with me a little bit, but it's not going to move. It's going to be the same thing as this, and that's what I've just done on here by putting this loose washer on there. That loose washer is only there to absorb some of the slop. So I'm going to go ahead and clean all this up, and I'll be back. Let me start with this. This is what it was going to look like. You can see the repair that I've made that appears to be working, how much further out it extends, as well as being properly, I would say, secured to the board. I feel absolutely confident that this is not only exponentially stronger, but realistically I would say it's probably the way that Immersion should have designed it, unless that there's a reason that this board should not be, maybe by my, and this is a receiver, so I guess this joke would be kind of wasted, but so this was going to emit some kind of radio frequency that's going to bring down the International Space Station or something. I don't understand, or I don't see any reason why this is not the manner in which business is not conducted. I mean, you can see that this is Immersion, I love you. But that is crap. That is a terrible design. I'm not an engineer, not a rocket scientist, just an idiot with a hobby that I like. I guess that's why it's a hobby. Anyways, that's what's going to happen. What I'm going to do is, I had briefly shown initially some of my Dremel equipment. I'm going to get a little creative. I am so impressed with that repair. I probably should try it. Real world application first, but go big or go home, right guys? I'm going to use this high-speed wheel, and ultimately, because when I tried to remove these points, I was unsuccessful. What I'm going to go ahead and do is, using this as an example, and you can pretend that this is the high-speed wheel, my intent is to cut these off, score through them slowly and cut them off, obviously trying not to cut through the board, flip the board, cut through the other three, or at least 2 of them. And that way I can just go ahead and remove those, and then by desoldering them, put the new one on, and I'll have 2 repairs. Now, like as I said, there might be a reason, and I might find out the hard way. So I'll be the guinea pig here, guys. You can see how, and I've spaced this out, there is an even gap around here. I would believe that if there was an issue, that these would be insulated, not isolated, which it is in this respect, but insulated. You know, like how wires are, they have insulation on them. That's how this would be conducted. I'm sorry, I'm trying to focus this camera. We all know what wire insulation is. So now for the eating crow portion of this video. Like I said, I have Immersion. I've bought a lot of your stuff. Here's another 600 milliwatt that I have not used yet, and after saying that, Immersion, this is your stuff, this is not Immersion stuff. I want to say for sure that I bought this off from ImmersionRC, and it's on my disco, and I have since removed that one and just gone straight to it just being straight out, because of how unpredictable that was and how undependable. So that's where that is. That was not Immersion's. That was either one of 2 places. It's either IB Crazies off from that antenna, or else it's off from ImmersionRC. So take that as a heed my warning, if you will. Alright, so here we are. We're all tooled up. In all honesty, I'm kind of skeptical if I can get in there and actually make these cuts correctly. I'm going to go ahead and give it a try, just because I'm daring. I think the only thing that's necessarily going to get damaged would be this buzzer. Looks like there's just 2 points, and you know, obviously it's nice to have the buzzer, but you know what, hey, we're here making videos, right? Let's see what kind of videos we can make. As I'm thinking about this, guys, I'm sure that this is leaded, or the potential exists, and I'm getting ready to ultimately aerosol this. So heed my warning, don't do this without some kind of respiratory protection. Alright, so I've gone ahead and cut through that, and you may have noticed that I stopped as soon as I seen that this moved. So, for all of you guys that are like, what is this guy doing? I have a plan. We'll see if it works. So, as I said, as you've seen in the initial repair, once I took the one off, all I had to do was heat it up, and the tang came off. I'm assuming it's called a tang. I'm just going to call it a tang. And then we're not talking about the satellite orange drink from the 80s, 70s and 80s. That was supposed to be funny. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a heat gate for my soldering tip, and then I'm gonna go ahead and remove these individual components. I'm definitely not what you would call a solder master. I just know how to get myself in trouble. Everything I've learned off YouTube. And you may think I'm joking, but numerous doctors, at least in the ones I've experienced in the Army, if I go in there with an ailment and they get on Google and tell me what's wrong with me, I don't see why I can't be an expert, so-called expert. I'm not so-calling myself an expert, but why I can't consider myself at least a little bit knowledgeable if I've watched some videos off YouTube. Especially if doctors are referencing Google, WebMD to keep me flying for whatever the ailment is. And I'm not the only one. There's quite a few guys that are, I went and seen the flight doc. The guy got on WebMD and told me what I had. So, alright. Hopefully that shows up. You can see that after cutting that, there was a couple little nicks. I don't see any. It must have been on the bottom. You can see where I'm at with this now. I went ahead and, as I described, cut across here very lightly. At no time did I, on this one, cut into the circuit board. Good on me. This one, you can see where I just barely nicked it. From the repairs I've made over here, that little nick should not be by any stretch of the imagination an issue. So I'm going to go ahead and now, since I've removed that shorter one, we'll say one like that. Obviously not that one, it was this one. After I've removed that one, I am going to go ahead and replace it with this longer one. That way I can duplicate this loosely called upgrade/repair. Actually, that'll be a repair, that'll be an upgrade. For those that know me in my personal life, yes, this is a zip tie. I use, for what rednecks use duct tape, I use zip ties. I am not above calling myself a redneck. I just don't use duct tape so much. I'm a zip tie guy. Alright, so this is a little tight. Kind of as expected because of the repair on the other one was not including having the existing solder on the pad. So now I've gone ahead and grabbed another one to see if that was just a one-off issue. It doesn't appear as though it is. Here's where I'm going to go ahead and go back to my soldering wick and see if I can remove some of that solder. So that's what it looked like. Let me zoom in so you can see what you're looking for. That is what it looked like. Oh, sorry, grabbing it. Those are what it was. And this is what we are looking for. Hopefully it portrays correctly on the camera. So that is the desired effect. Whenever you see that camera getting wiggly, I'm usually trying to focus it. Sorry, I've got lamp stands and everything all over the place. So let me go ahead and, don't know if this is necessarily a technique, but I'm going to go ahead and get this warm. I can feel on my hands that is getting warm. So I'm going to go ahead now and transfer it over here. So interesting to note, at 400C, it was very easy. And the only reason why I'm talking you guys through this is at 400, and now I know it's a higher temperature, the contact with the board was a shorter duration. So my thought is, even though it's hotter, it's in shorter duration. So I'm putting, technically I would feel I am putting less heat into the board and the surrounding components, which not really a whole lot of components around here. Yeah, look at that. At 400, so maybe try 375. it at least gives you somewhere to start. And I'm using the 888 Hako, so mine's not even digital. It's just the old analog FX 888. So we've got that done. I'm gonna go ahead and it's still a little bulbous. So let me flatten that out. There it goes. That should be good. That one didn't seem to want to come off very easily. But it goes on just fine. I'm still at 400. It's probably a little hotter than this needs to be. I've learned that using rubbing alcohol will remove this flux, and that this flux is actually conductive. I was searching for the word there. Sorry for the momentary pause. So I recommend doing that as well. You may not see me do that during this video. Oops. Don't inhale soldering fumes, folks. It's bad for you. Like if you're grinding leaded solder components. I left that at 400 degrees, not for any real reason other than out of laziness. It's done. I did it quickly. I don't believe it to have been an issue. I don't see any discoloration. Let me find which camera I'm looking through. Just made the repair on this side. I don't believe to see any discoloration. I do see some flux. Like I said, I'll go ahead and clean that up. Same thing on here. There was a little bit of discoloration when I was removing, gosh, why do I keep saying when I was removing the original component. Another thing I would recommend is making sure that this is at a right angle to the board. I think that, of course, if you're using the existing pads, you're going to be oriented mostly in that direction, so it shouldn't be an issue. I have heard, shouldn't say heard, but I had read through a couple forums that the ethyl rubbing alcohol I believe to be a little bit better for electronics. If I'm wrong, absolutely. I do ask that you correct me, and I will put a note on the video. I do not want to be giving bad information out. Here we go. This is getting all cleaned up. In the videos that I was watching, people were just like, they had water in. Well, let me rephrase it. I don't know for sure if they had water in it as much as they were spraying of this stuff. I would have thought that maybe it was diluted, but maybe it wasn't. And they were just literally spraying it via spray bottle on their circuit boards and whatnot in order to clean up the components. Something probably along the lines of this size. You can see this is not a very large device as far as spray bottle, but they were using something that size and just spraying it on the components. I myself am gonna just use a little bit of the stuff on the Q-tip. Just like take a moment to thank a couple folks on YouTube that I really enjoy watching their channels and the information that they give. And I'm not necessarily putting this in any order, but Bruce Simpson, RC Model Reviews, love his channel, the information that he gives and presents, the way he does it, the way he educates. Especially feel bad for all of the stuff that he's dealing with as far as being in New Zealand and how they're the hobby laws or the RC laws that he's having to deal with there. So Mr. Simpson, I appreciate you continuously making videos and reviews and educating all of us and showing us a a lot of components and how they work and explaining it, especially while dealing with what you're dealing with and not having the opportunity to just walk out and throw something in the air and enjoy the hobby. So thank you for that. And equally so, thank you to Flight Test. Those guys are very, if nothing else, they are absolutely entertaining. Numerous of their videos are, the entire segments are always so easy to watch because of how entertaining the gentlemen are, and what they do for the hobby. I would say that I've spent a lot of money on the Flight Test store, but I haven't. Everything that they sell is next to nothing. And when people ask me, they're like, "Gee, Corey, how many of whatever do you have?" And I very boastfully say, "Oh, I've got like 10 airplanes." And I got 10 airplanes and I've got so many multi-rotors, and they think I'm crazy. I'm like, well, let me explain. I go to flighttest.com and I purchase some of their speed build kits. And for $33, I can get 3 airplanes, and I just buy one motor, speed controller, and a couple $3 servos off from Hobby King, and I'm up in the air. So hats off to those gentlemen, as well as Mr. Simpson, for everything that I've seen and done because of those guys. Multi-rotor forums, you guys are amazing. Got me into the hobby. I'm sure that my wife knew about you. She'd probably try and get you guys shut down in one way or another. What I'm doing right now is I've just bent, I don't want to say bent, that sounds bad. I have readjusted this LED so that it was protruding. You can see how it was kind of flush. Absolutely not needed. It's just, actually, that's kind of interesting to note that I may have cut through that with that Dremel. So, gentlemen, while you're manipulating your rotary tool, keep that in mind. I'm getting a temperature indication for my camera again, so keep that in mind. I obviously have messed that up, so learning point: be careful when you're cutting. I honestly was very focused on the board, didn't think anything about the LED. I don't think that, judging by this, that it would be a big deal to find another LED. And typically the LED, it's just there for, I would think anyways, it's just there for looks, so that you can maybe feel good about which antenna's on. From now on, if I hear the beeping, if I don't see that light, then it must be that one. But it was working earlier, we did see that. But anyways, coming back to this real quick, you can see the repair. Absolutely robust. I would very adamantly recommend that immersion, if you're whatever reason watching this is how you need to do this. This is, unless there's a reason for this as far as frequency, some kind of RF I don't know, some big word of something or another that I don't understand. This is how you're doing it for no reason other than because you're saving yourself 1/1000th of a penny. You're doing it wrong. So with that being said, I think we have a successful repair here. For all in all, I'll put a link to these components, as well as, like I said, you're not, if you buy the pack of 10, you are not going to need the additional nuts and washers. Actually, maybe I just bought additional nuts. You will not need the additional nuts. I figured that these would be available for whatever other future projects I had. These things were pretty cheap, and for the amount, and if for nothing more than you're going to need a rotary tool, a soldering station, or soldering iron at least. I would actually recommend, as I said earlier, probably a face mask or some form of ventilation, because you are going to be cutting that, and not knowing, I'm sure all this stuff's made in China, so it could have leaded solder in it. You're going to be cutting that and putting it into the air. People die from solder from lead, folks, so take that serious, just for what it's worth. But yeah, this was a very simple repair, to be honest with you. It has taken me approximately an hour and a half. That is with waiting for the camera to power down and recycle, and changing batteries and making sure everything was set up. I would think now, especially since I've done that, if I do this Uno after I've tested this one appropriately, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Provided you have those assets and the availability to all the equipment that you're going to need. So, in summary, this has been relatively easy. I don't think it's going to be an issue. So if you found this thing interesting or at all helpful, I'm glad. I'm not necessarily going to ask for anybody to like or subscribe, but hey, hopefully this works out for you. It looks like it's going to work out for me. I will definitely post a feedback, or at least an update, if this doesn't work out, and I will post a big disclaimer saying, here's my video on making this repair and upgrade. Don't do it. It didn't work. But yeah, you can see right here that once I get this little rascal put back in here and screw it down, this little guy is going to be robust as all get out. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and hope you have a good day. 6:30 in the morning Korean time, so it's Friday, it's your guys' Thursday. Have a good one.